Have you ever looked back over your life and realized that what you thought were separate chapters were actually one story all along? That's what happened to me. For a long time, I believed I had lived two completely different spiritual journeys, two threads, and one was rooted in Christianity. The other led me into the medicine wheel through my shamanic training. I never set out trying to blend spiritual traditions. In fact, if someone had told me 15 years ago that I would be sitting here talking about Mother Mary and the medicine wheel in the same conversation, I probably would have laughed. But Spirit has a way of revealing things in His timing, not ours. Today, I simply want to share my story. I want to share how these two seemingly separate paths became one beautiful journey back to relationship with God, with creation, and with myself. Two threads weaving a beautiful tapestry. Years ago, I was standing at one of the most pivotal moments of my life. My marriage was ending. I was at work and received a phone call that put it all in motion. And the person on the other end of the line, someone who is normally calm, cool, and collected, was frightened and unsettled. And in that moment, something unexpected happened inside of me. There was no panic and there was no paralysis. Instead, there was incredible stillness and clarity, and the words of what I needed her to do unfolded out of my mouth as if someone else was speaking them. I knew I was about to walk through one of the hardest and darkest seasons of my life, and there would be uncertainty, and there would be pain. But underneath all of this was deep, grounded knowing and a surreal sense of calm. I knew what I had to do, and I knew I needed to do this to protect my children. I didn't know how everything would unfold, and I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I needed to take this step. And looking back now, I recognized something I couldn't possibly have understood then. There was this quiet strength, the unwavering knowing, and the ability to not be consumed by it was the beginning of something sacred awakening within me. At the time, I didn't have language for it, and today I recognize it as the beginning of my relationship with the lineage of the Marys. Not long after that season, an opportunity came into my life that would change the trajectory of my life. I entered a shamanic practitioner training, and I honestly thought I was simply learning healing techniques to cope with my own anxiety and the chaos of my current circumstances. And what I found instead was myself. I learned about the medicine wheel. I had never experienced it before. And even though I have Native American ancestry, it wasn't something that had been lived or practiced in my family. This was completely new to me. And what struck me wasn't the teachings themselves. It was that they were experiential. The medicine wheel invited me into relationship with the earth, relationship with spirit, relationship with my own body, and with the parts of myself I had unknowingly abandoned. And for the first time in my life, I sat in a circle of women where I felt completely safe enough to cry and to release, safe enough to share the secrets I'd been holding so tightly it hurt, safe enough to stop pretending. These women saw me and they accepted me, comforted me, and loved me anyway. I began learning how to meditate, how to become still, how to listen instead of striving. It was there that I realized I wasn't actually in relationship with myself. I was in relationship with my outside world. I knew I was stressed and overwhelmed, but I didn't realize that I wasn't connected to my heart, my intuition, and my inner knowing. The medicine wheel didn't teach me concepts. It gave me a map to find my way home. Then life took another unexpected turn. About 10 years later, I became very sick. And during that season, someone encouraged me to pray the rosary. Now, I had grown up Catholic, but if I'm being honest, my experience of Catholicism had been more about structure, shame, and fear than relationship, more about rules than mystery, and more about obligation than intimacy. The rosary changed that. Didn't bring me back to religion, but it brought me deeper still into that relationship with myself. As I prayed each day, something opened. I began experiencing the undercurrents of my faith that I had never known were there. I wasn't simply reciting prayers anymore. I was entering into a relationship with Mother Mary, and through her, a deeper relationship with Christ. Through my shamanic work, I had developed a daily practice of creating sacred space. Every morning I would step outside, touch the earth, breathe deeply, call in the 4 directions, the east, the south, the west, the north. It wasn't a ritual I performed. It became a conversation I entered each day, my way of beginning my day with grounded presence. Within a year of praying the rosary each day, something unexpected happened. When I turned toward the east, Yeshua was there. Not physically, but in my heart, in my mind's eye, his presence became unmistakable. I could feel the love of Christ welcoming me into a new day. And it happened over and over again. And eventually I stopped being surprised by it. It simply became part of my relationship with him. And then nearly a year ago, another opportunity came, and this deepened my relationship with the Marys. At the time, I honestly didn't know how I was going to add one more thing to my plate, but over 17 years of walking a spiritual path has taught me to answer the call, and the rest will take care of itself. So I did. Within a few weeks, something unexpected began happening in my daily practice of setting sacred space. When I turned toward the south, Mother Mary was there to greet me, standing there in my mind's eye with the same unconditional love every child longs to experience, holding space, offering comfort, inviting healing, and helping me understand what it truly means to be received in love. For me, the south became the place where the Divine Mother helps us heal the parts of ourselves that still believe we must earn love instead of simply receiving it. And then I would turn to the west, and the west direction that asks us to release, to grieve, to surrender, to face the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. This is where I began experiencing the beautiful presence and profoundness of Mary Magdalene, not as someone who rescues us from our shadows, but as someone who walks beside us through them all. She reminds me that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about embracing every part of who we've been with compassion. And the west became the place where I stopped running from myself. And then the north, at first I didn't see anything. I simply experienced this incredible white presence, bright, still, peaceful. And eventually my heart recognized it as Grandmother Anna, because the wisdom within that light felt like every grandmother who's ever looked at you with unconditional love and a quiet knowing. The north deepened this profound space of stillness, a place where wisdom is remembered, not chased, where we become quiet enough to receive. And the hummingbird who greets us in the north teaches us to drink the sweet nectar of life. And what I've learned is that sweetness looks different for each of us. For one person, it's the mountains. For another, it's the ocean. And for someone else, it's tending a garden or holding a grandchild or sitting quietly with a cup of tea. Part of being human is discovering what your own soul calls sweet. The north invites us into that discovery. And people sometimes ask if I think the medicine wheel and Christianity belong together. I don't spend much time trying to answer that question anymore. I can only tell you what happened to me. The medicine wheel became a map that helped me return to relationship with my body, with my emotions, with the earth, and with my intuition. And through that journey, through relationship, I continue to heal and hold sacred space for others to find their own path to heal. The Marys began revealing themselves, not replacing the wheel, not changing it, simply illuminating another layer of love that had been present all along. I no longer feel the need to separate traditions. Truth recognizes truth. Love recognizes love. And the earth has always spoken God's language. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's this. You don't have to walk my path. Your relationship with the divine will never look like mine, and it shouldn't. Your path is uniquely yours, and my deepest calling isn't to convince you to believe what I believe. It's to encourage you to become curious about your own relationship with your higher power, to listen, to become still, to notice where love is already meeting you, because I believe that's how spirit works. One relationship at a time. If any part of this stirred something in you, if you feel a quiet pull towards the medicine wheel, the Marys, or nature intelligence, take a moment to subscribe. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever looked back over your life and realized that what you thought were separate chapters were actually one story? I'd really be honored to hear yours. Thank you for spending this time with me, and until next time, May you continue returning to yourself and discovering the beautiful path that's always been unfolding beneath your feet.